Write Night is a talk show with published authors, writers, and content creators discussing both the creative and technical sides of writing, as well as the industry surrounding it, from novels to screenplays to comics and more. And now, here's your host, author Travis I. Sivart.
Thank you, Cogsley. Appreciate that intro. Welcome to Write Night, where we do a coffee chat, round table sort of thing. And just so everybody knows, it is an adult show, adult topics, adult language at time. We try to curb it here for anybody who may be of a certain temperament, but it's going to slip, it's going to happen. I'm Travis Sivart. I'm the host and author of books such as Silver and Smith, which here's a quick flash at that, though there is a new cover out there that I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that cover. And this is something I will be talking about tonight because it relates to what I want to talk about, and I'll get more into that shortly. But first, let's let these goons introduce themselves. Why don't we start with the goon in the right-hand side of the screen. Michael?
What's up, everybody? My name's Michael Thompson. I'm an independent author and illustrator. One of my books is Winslow Hoffner's Incredible Encounters, Folkloric Fantasy on the High Seas, Cryptids, Sea Monsters, Epic Urban Legends that few have beheld, but there's one man who's seen them all, the gallant fisherman Winslow Hoffner, and he's regaling his tales of epic adventure to a couple of journalists who discover their small harbor towns harboring incredible secrets. You check it out on michaelthompsonbooks.com, MICHAELTHOMPSON books.com.
Well
cut
done.
Cut out the part where I stand.
We'll fix it in post.
Two quick questions. Do you have an approximate launch date for the audiobook?
That is totally at the whim of ACX right now.
Okay.
But I am aiming for very early in the new year for the very exciting sequel.
There we go.
To Winslow Hoffner's Incredible Encounters.
That was
yet
the
titled
question.
or yet to be officially spoken of, but there you go. Exclusive, right? Not exclusive.
And Aaron?
Hi, I'm Aaron Kennedy, author of Persona Non Grata, the first of the Ships of Valor book series. I've been a technical writer for 25 years, currently working on the Icarus Black young adult sci-fi pulp series. Yeah.
I like how
Very
you put
exciting.
book series, so nobody confuses it with the movie or TV series.
Forthcoming.
You can always hope, right?
That's right.
Okay, so tonight I really want to talk about, you know what, I don't know if I didn't write it all down. So what was the first thing on the list, gentlemen?
Researching the genre.
Researching your genre.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my genre that I've been working on is cyberpunk. And I know each of you have like unique genres that you want to talk about. But with me for cyberpunk, it's not a complete cyberpunk book that I'm writing. It is...
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
I've never heard what the definition of cyberpunk is.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's like steampunk, but more cybery.
Correct. Yeah, if you imagine tech punk.
Okay.
So, kind of down and dirty, nitty gritty. This was popular in the 90s when goth was coming up. There was a game, a tabletop role-playing game called Cyberpunk. Shadowrun followed thereafter, which took that futuristic world with the technology and mixed in orcs and elves, kind of like Bright that came out on Netflix.
Yeah, okay.
Very Matrix. Very
Johnny Mnemonic.
what is it? Johnny Mnemonic.
Not familiar with Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, great Keanu Reeves movie.
Oh, Keanu. I like Keanu.
Everybody likes Keanu.
Which, by the way, I did recently reread Bram Stoker's Dracula via audiobook, and it was narrated by Alan Cummings, who you'll know the voice, but not necessarily the face, Tim Curry, and a full cast. It was so much more interesting than reading it off the page. They did
It's like an audio drama.
Yes.
Well, the cool part about that book is it's all done via letters and journals and things like that. It's one of those, it's kind of a captured format. So rather than one person telling it in either a first person or a third person narrative format, we're capturing it as more that modern feel of, oh, these letters have been sent, and then it's all journalized
Interesting.
from there. So your Game of Thrones series, whereas it has the headers of, oh, this is from Arya's perspective, or it's from whoever's perspective. It has a kind of that feel. He kind of captured it from Bram Stoker.
Wow.
And hold on, nope, totally lost it. Moving on with what I want to talk about then.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sure it'll pop back to me.
Cyberpunk.
I really enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, I felt like the movie that was made with Keanu, that's where I came up at. This is what I forgot. Now I remember again. Followed it pretty well.
Yeah.
Till I popped the movie in last night and went, oh, wow, so different. It kind of has the gist right. It's like better than any other version, but still very far off from the book. It's,
Thematically the same, but visually different. It's kind of like the Harry Potter stuff.
right.
You kind of get the beats right,
Well-
but it's just not quite there.
Also, the movie humanized Dracula in that his motivation was love. Dracula's motivation is not love. He's evil. He's a bad creature. He's out for one reason, to survive and thrive. And he hit a wall where he was, and he's relocating to the modern world. And this is not his story. This is the story about everybody else's lives who he's affecting. He wasn't in love with Mina. He didn't want to hook up with her. She didn't remind him of his dead wife. It had nothing to do with love. Please, if we have a monster, we don't need to put a damn love story in to make him relatable. Let him be the unassailable evil that's above and beyond everything else. Oh, by the way, I wanted to also say, for Aaron's books, if anybody wants to check out Aaron's book on Amazon, go to bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Aaron Kennedy, Aaron, Kennedy, like the deceased president, unless Dracula got to him. And for my books, at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Travis Books. Okay, yeah, we forgot to do that. See, Michael's so good at it, we always forget. You still there, Aaron?
I'm still here.
Okay. You just weren't making noise. I want to make sure. Okay, so Cyberpunk is what I'm looking at, but it's not quite Cyberpunk. It's like Cyberpunk Noir. So 20 to 30 years in the future. I want that 20s, 30s action PI, that Indiana Jones type feel where it's futuristic, but it has a large element of a repeating past in it. Yes, Aaron?
Okay, so you want the cross genre, you want the mixed feel.
Yeah, and my concerns here is how do I build that is my biggest concern.
Well, I mean, there's some great cross genre type things that happen here. Like Steve Martin did a great comedy noir, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Well, no, and I like to use these contrasting examples because it's one of those they're there because you can see how people can mix things in interesting ways. Indiana Jones is adventure pulp with a noir feel.
Right.
Action comedy. The Mummy is a great action comedy. So is Fifth Element. That's space opera comedy.
Right.
It's a satire of space opera. But we can get those kind of things, and we're talking about Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, bringing your Johnny Mnemonic, it's a good movie, but it never transcends. People don't remember it because it's a good representation, but nobody remembers it.
Do you remember what Johnny Mnemonic was based off of?
It is one of the
William Gibson.
Oh shoot! Yep. Well, thank you. Same guy that did Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, or friggin' shoot.
Blade Runner?
Yeah, the other one.
Yes, thank you.
What was it?
Blade Runner and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep are the same novel, but they're different stories.
He's kind of the forefather of cyberpunk, and he wrote,
Absolutely.
I want to say in the 60s and 70s mostly.
Still writing.
Is he? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good timing because you got the Cyberpunk game coming out, which
That's it.
Keanu is in the commercials for,
Yeah,
to bring it full circle.
and that's one reason why I went. Let's focus on this book next and try to move into that. Um, and besides other elements in the book that I'll talk about, I'm sure at some point in time. You know what I totally forgot to do? I totally forgot to. What is everybody reading or writing project in chat? And just so chat knows, we are recording a live podcast right now. So, it is an Ask Me Anything format. Feel free to throw your questions, comments, or advice into the chat, and we'll divert to it as long as it's entertaining or relevant, and hopefully both. And those on the podcast, we do have a live chat audience that is interacting with us, so you might hear certain noises. You might hear
Okay.
this sound of us trying to get attention, and don't forget to check out the other podcasts such as Stealing for Survival and Talk of the Tavern. I am just all over the place
Well,
tonight.
you know what? Let's use yours as an example, okay? Because let's take the classic one, the kind of that cross genre look, feel, things like that. Okay, you got your Star Wars. Star Wars, at first glance, appears to be a sci-fi movie. Okay, it's really a Western in a sci-fi setting,
I always call
or
it
high
King Arthur.
fantasy.
Yeah.
I would think of it. I think of it as fantasy.
But Westerns did take a lot
This is a
from
story
fantasy.
It's got space wizards. No, but
Yeah.
I mean, but when you remove all the sci-fi elements, it's a Western. It's written as a Western.
Okay.
Okay, Han Solo is a friggin' outlaw gunslinger.
Definitely
Thank you for
Han
the
Solo,
bits.
yeah.
Appreciate that, Tracy. Here's to you.
Woohoo!
Carry on, Aaron.
But we're talking about it's written as a Western. Kind of you got your sheriff, you got your governor, you got all these kind of guys running around. They're wielding blasters. You got this ancient religion where they're using swords instead of something not so refined as a blaster. That kind of thing. So take that with yours. What are we looking at as we apply that to the Silver and Smith series?
See, and that's what I'm looking for is how do I build this? Cyberpunk is one thing, but there's got to be other genres since you can't just go on Amazon when you self-publish and go, hey, here's a genre I made up, which wouldn't do any good anyway because nobody knows to search for it. And Michael, this kind of relates to Winslow and your
Yeah.
topic.
Folkloric fantasy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know
Yeah,
what?
I had. So
I'm-
Winslow's in a pretty niche genre. On the closest genre to what Winslow is on Amazon was Sea Stories, which I think is appropriate. But this is Sea Stories with cryptozoology mixed in, and so I had to sort of come up with my own genre, and this was for like the marketing side of it. Like I was thinking to myself as the first book was getting ready to come out, I was thinking to myself, how am I going to market this? What am I going to tell people that this is when they're at my table? And so I came up with folkloric fantasy to describe it.
And that's what I'm looking at is how do I build this? Now, talking to somebody, it's one thing. But when you're trying to market it, and it's easy enough on social media, you can just put whatever you want and people are like, oh.
Yeah. Or like on my website. Yeah, I
Right.
call it folkloric fantasy, but it's not going to fit in necessarily
In a web search.
In a web search, yeah. So you got to think about what's the most searchable terms. I think Cyberpunk is pretty searchable now, but then you also have the game Cyberpunk and stuff that, you know.
I think Cyberpunk Noir is a good start.
When you said that, my antenna went up. I'm like, ooh, that sounds cool. You know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's sort of the key with pitching and with genres is that you want to create something that immediately sounds cool. So,
Well, you got that. You want to sound cool, but the thing that you also want to do is when you're doing a web search on the opposite side, it's got to narrow down enough to where you're not getting flooded with information.
Right.
When I was in the Marine Corps, I was part of an information management team. One of the big things that you run into is the filter. If the filter's too big, you get flooded with too much information.
Right. That's why
And
you
I'm
don't
doing a
put
marketing
and the in your searches.
Exactly. But I'm also taking a friggin' doctoral level friggin' marketing class right now market positioning. So what we got here is we've got this big thing And if we just say cyberpunk, cyberpunk means something.
Yeah.
It means a big group within the sci-fi realm, and we want to narrow that. We want a niche market, which is great. But cyberpunk noir, that can narrow it down and bring you directly to what you want it to be, kind of like in the Twitter universe, where a hashtag tailored to something you want. You want them, if they go type in cyberpunk noir, it brings it to you and maybe a couple other things that is going to relate directly to you.
You know, I'm going to do something I don't normally do on the live show. I'm going to pull up my social media right now, and I'm going to go here to Instagram, which is famous for hashtags, and I'm going to type in cyberpunk noir and see if anything.
Yep, and those
comes
that are over 40, like myself, we call them pound signs, much like friggin' George Takei does. Pound me hard, baby.
And by the way, there is a hashtag, less than 100 entries. And I tell you what, looking at what I'm seeing here, I'm okay with being associated with the images I'm seeing here.
Nice.
Especially if it grows. Well, I really like, wow. Hey, how you doing? Oh, sorry, guys.
It's okay.
That's a very good picture. I'll leave that up and look at it later. Not that picture alone, just... Aaron?
Well, that picture alone, but...
alone. not
right.
In a group.
On his private Patreon stream, alone.
The Tavern's OnlyFans.
For $9.99 a month. Okay, you were saying though, Travis.
Sorry, I'm in a different market position right now.
Yes.
Aaron, you
Sir.
have young adult sci-fi pulp in the new series you're working on. So you're kind of in the same boat of us, where you want something in a core genre that's easily recognizable and well known, but you want to refine it and spin it so it's unique to you and what you're doing. So we're all kind of in the same boat with the next books we're working on.
Right. Okay. So what I was looking at is kind of my core genre is what I like is sci-fi. I like sci-fi. I like fantasy. They're the same thing. It's just whether or not you're going to the past or going to the future.
Pretty much, yeah.
Star Wars is the prime example there. It's a fantasy.
There are tropes in sci-fi where you explore humanity. And fantasy, you tend... But yeah, so there's differences, but there's a lot of very intricate
There's a reason
parallels.
they're grouped together in a bookstore.
Right.
Yeah. I like to think of it as like magic versus technology.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, any technology advanced enough will look like magic.
Oh,
yeah.
Here's a fun fact. In Portals 3 that I just finished writing, it's with the editor right now.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. There are 5 types
check her out.
Hmm?
Check Tara out at friggin'
Dreampunk.
DreamPunkPress.com, yeah. It's but in this, the 5th type of magic in that world is alchemy, and it's always been the weakest one. In this book, that alchemist was creating essentially tasers, light bulbs, firearms, and other things. But it was using the alchemic formula that his magic of ritual and study brought forth to do these things. So
very cool.
I'm hoping that hits well. And I've seen other books do it back in the 80s. Well, one series of mine in particular, and I can't even remember the name of the series. But it doesn't matter. Aaron, you were saying.
Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at the sci-fi. Persona non grata, okay, the Ships of Our book series takes place in this sci-fi universe. When I did Persona non grata, it takes a older protagonist, Ari Gadsden. Gadsden, 2 Ds in there. So
like Bob with
I was
2
like,
O's.
you know what? I want to do, huh?
It's like Bob with 2 O's.
Yes, that's right. So we got that. Well, I wanted to do Icarus Black. That's a great name, by the way. But it's a younger protagonist, and I was like, okay, let's make this a young adult novel in the vein of Harry Harrison. Your
Stainless Steel Rat.
Stainless Steel, exactly. Stainless Steel Rat series, but also the Heinlein juvenile novels. There's some great ones. Podcane of Mars, The the Rolling Stones, that vein. Um,
Quick tangent.
Sure.
Notice we no longer use the word juvenile because now it's associated with teen crime. Whereas we used to say juvenile novels, and we'd have juvenile,
mhm.
but now juvenile is infantile or immature behavior,
Yeah.
or
Juvenile sounds younger. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but and the reason I use that is because that is what his
yes,
set of
yeah.
books was known as.
But now it's known as
So,
young adult. Fun fact.
mhm,
Yeah, same
yep.
thing though.
Uh, so I want to recreate that kind of vein. They just don't exist in sci-fi anymore for the most part. There are some. Your Mockingjays
Mm-hmm.
are there, but it's an underrepresented market. But in fantasy, they're all over the damn place.
Yeah, true.
But in sci-fi, they're not. And I was like, you know what? We have within that same greater umbrella, we have an overrepresentation of males. So I said, you know what? Icarus Black, woman protagonist, or young woman protagonist. I touched base with Tara, bounced a couple ideas off her. She's on board. She will be my editor for this series as well.
Right.
Dreampunk Press, by the way. So we're working through that one. I decided, you know what? We're going to do this as a Harry Potter in space kind of concept. 9 novels, 1 book per year kind of setup, or 1 book per year of life series. That's where we're going from that. So
I see.
we're going from,
I got you. Okay.
yeah. So age 11 and 12, going all the way up to about 21, and that's where we're going to go with it. And
What an
that's
interesting, what an interesting, big project, you know? And
I
and
hope so.
And like and the change of the character across those years is going to be so interesting.
That's something
That's what I'm hoping.
I really
Yeah.
appreciated about Harry Potter is the character got more complex, the situations got more complex, the storyline got more complex, and the books got bigger as Harry aged. Now, anything else said
Yes.
about the series, positive or negative, I was impressed and pleased with that because I had 2 children of that age as they were being published. So they kind of got to grow with Harry.
That's cool.
No, and one of so I've got that major theme arc that I'm going on there. But one of the things that I wanted to do in there is, well, we're dealing with one of the classic kind of orphan alone tropes. I'm tying in Maslow's hierarchy of needs with it, where you start off at basic survival needs. I need food, I need shelter, I need sleep, that kind of things, and I'm working my way up. Well, as we deal with in the first novel, she's finding food and shelter. She's dealing with those needs. As when we get towards the upper books, we're dealing with self-fulfillment needs.
Good.
So you're working your way up as an adult. Exactly. So I want to hit those beats.
Yeah, that's a cool structure.
So to
like that.
clarify, Icarus Black is female, correct?
Yes.
Okay, see, from previous conversations, I thought you had...
1 second. Icarus Black, young woman, female, and modern terminology, things like that. Yes, sex is female. Icarus Black, young woman, because we are modern and we are not going to clarify a character based on their sex. We're going to use the gendered terms instead.
Okay. Oh,
I know.
Yeah, no. I'm just the way terms changed so much in the past handful of years. That's all, and continuing changing. So we've got all
and this terminology is important to the story.
Okay. With all this that we have with our different series and books, how do we go about marketing these genres? Are we looking to latch on to a larger genre and drag the smaller one behind it? Are we looking to create our own? Are we looking to hit that secondary genre, which perhaps for Michael is folklore, for Aaron would be, I guess, pulp would be the secondary genre, and for me, noir, and pull in the people with the larger genre interest into that. Which way are we going at it? And I don't
think
have
it's
an
all
answer.
of the above.
Yeah, okay.
All the above. But
It's all of the above. I think, like, I definitely my first instinct is always trailblaze, you know, because I want to make something new and or like the coolest sounding thing. And I like the experience of like saying, oh, it's folkloric fantasy, and then saying like, oh, okay. And so
See, with
people are like, oh, that
Cyberpunk,
sounds like a thing.
with
You know?
Cyberpunk Noir, I
So
love having them start out in the high-tech world, and then they go
yes,
to the broken ruins of the past, and they go to the jungles
right, yeah,
and these other places that aren't quite that level of technology, and the technology is almost removed from the equation, and they have to go back to the basics.
yeah. But in terms of like, you know, marketing, like finding your genres on Amazon or any other site where you host your books, you gotta work with what's already pre-established.
True.
So whatever categories are there, so you gotta find whatever like closely resembles your stuff, and be as specific as you can. Like, so I have sea stories for Winslow, and I was looking, for instance, like there's cryptids are involved in the Winslow series. So I was searching other books and seeing what books involving cryptids are organized under. But interestingly enough, is that usually anything involving cryptids is sort of like a nonfiction, like these are the stories that people tell, and they're organized under a genre which I think is called like unsolved mysteries or something like that. Sometimes there's like UFO and something conspiracy, something, I don't know. But for mine, it's fiction, so it's fiction and it's involving these creatures, and it doesn't have that yet. But what I did find was dragons and mythical creatures. So I think of cryptozoology as modern mythology. So
It's reasonable.
I'm like, that'll work. We got Gambo, the fire-breathing fish, and that's sort of a dragon. We'll go with that. So you got to work with what's there as well.
Show the cover again, Michael,
Sure.
of book one. Yeah. So looking
one,
at
there
that
you go.
right there, the one on the right-hand side, which would be Michael's left, yeah, that definitely looks draconic.
Yeah,
So-
it's draconic.
I think it fits well. I love that cover, man.
Thank you so much.
he did that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I painted this. Took about 80 hours. I got some real exciting stuff that I can't wait to share. The illustrations are all done for book 2,
Ooh.
and I'm working on the cover now. So we have, and I decided that in terms of like the shape of the cover, like for this one we have a column of monsters surging upward,
Right.
and so for the second one I want a spiral of monsters going around.
Okay.
Nice.
So I'm going to have a different directionality for these like sort of living collages of the stories on the cover.
So maybe an overhead shot of the water.
Yeah, that's well, it's not an overhead shot. It's still like you're sort of you're a little bit closer. Like Winslow's actually very small on this cover. He's right here.
Itty-bitty.
So it's more of a medium shot, and then the creatures and you'll see soon enough. The creatures are sort of like arcing around, and they're all sort of pointing inward at him, but they're arcing around. So
Is
it's
there a
gonna create this
Bigfoot with a
spiral.
snorkel and flippers?
That would be cool.
He wanted in. Now, Aaron, did you have something to say there? About how you want to take it when
what-
you start
oh.
publishing?
Sorry, I missed that last couple words.
How you want to take it when you start publishing? What angle are you looking at for yours?
Well, okay, so a couple things I'm looking at is one, you got that greater genre. People are always going to be looking for sci-fi, and there's the benefit of books is we're non-competitive for the most part. People can read a book, and it doesn't prevent them from reading another book, which is great. But people are always looking for a specific kind of area. Like I like the comedy books. I like your Tom Holtz, your Christopher Moores, your Terry Pratchett's. I like the realm. So there are other people that like the books that are published by Dream Press. So they're looking at theirs and going, "Oh, I love this one." So they're going to be looking for more from the same kind of people. So they're just going to pop. So you being published by them, what is it? My Bunny is a zombie. I think it's published on
Actually,
that.
Silver and Smith is Dream Punk Press.
Oh, okay. I believe I was up on there. She happens to have
Right.
your 2-pack on her site at the moment.
Right.
That's the only reason I mentioned that one. But yes, she's got a few of theirs on there, so they see that and they go, "Oh, let me move on to the next ones that happen to be out there."
Which, by the way, I believe I finally found an artist for Kids and Monsters, the third book in the Kids and Monsters series, Monsters After Dark.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So they'll see things that are there, and then they move on to this one, and it's those subgenres that people just devour, and they're constantly looking for more. So not only do I want to hit that big market of sci-fi, and they happen to trip onto mine, but they're going to work down that list. And we were talking off show about like Brandon Sanderson and the guys that liked Robert Jordan through his death. They ended up picking up Brandon Sanderson and working down the chain of his stuff.
Right.
Guys that like Neil Gaiman ended up liking Terry Pratchett because they had a collaboration.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm the kind of guy that if you like my work, you're going to love Robert Heinlein. You're going to love Harry Harrison because that's the style that I kind of like, or that I kind of
Spider
emulate.
Robinson too. Spider Robinson also.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because Spider Robinson actually did the working notes of one of Heinlein's last books.
Did he? Okay.
He did.
It's So what I'm seeing here is to fix what I'm concerned about. Maybe I'll add sci-fi. There is a possibility of adding dystopian, and other subgenres like that to the cyberpunk, and seeing what I can get when people. Oh, here's another great way when you're publishing your book, especially if you're self-publishing or even if you're not. In the description, in the blurb you put on whatever online website where you're selling it, include your keywords. Michael, include folkloric fantasy. Aaron, include sci-fi pulp. For me, the cyberpunk noir. That way, as people search for keywords, it's there.
Yeah. Yep. That's very important. It's very important to remember. Well, you have, like, if you're uploading to Amazon, you have a few little blocks that you can enter in. Beyond just the synopsis, there's the about the author, which is separate from your author page about the author. Each book can have its own about the author.
Right.
And then from the back of the book and from the author. So you can drop those searchable terms into those little blurbs beyond the synopsis as well.
Well, in technical writing, technical and scholarly writing, we always have our little keyword blurb, the things that we're actually looking for, and we also have the abstract section, the thing that almost emulates the introduction. Yeah. So you're going to want to say, hey, this article is about such and such, and then you've got the keyword that hits the marketing, business, blah, 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 blah. The very niche things that you're trying to do so that they can actually find it when they're doing a Google search.
Right.
Yeah.
Something else that's worth mentioning is when you're putting in keywords in Amazon, they give you 10 spots, I think. You can add multiple keywords separated by commas there.
Yes. So, and you can, in terms of genre, or on Amazon it's called category, you can call them up and add more than the default view initially allows. I think you can have up to 10 categories, but I think you can only enter 3. And you either have to call them or write them an email with the path. And the path, if you want to find what the path is, then you can look at other books that are like yours, like we were talking about earlier in your genre, and you can click. That's one way to get to it. And depending on how specific you are, it's like books, fiction, and these are separated by little arrows, sci-fi, UFO, etc.
Right. Which is a great way to researching the market for a few things. Where that genre is, as Michael is mentioning, what other books similar to yours or authors similar to you and your style, their categories /genre, as well as checking and seeing what genres are hot and selling right now, going to their top 100 sellers. Now, there's some
Yeah.
things you're always going to see. You're always going to see Harry Potter there. You're always going to see Tolkien there. You're always going to see 1984 by George Orwell there. You're always going to see some Stephen King, some Dean Koontz, and some romance.
Hmm.
But go find the stuff like yours and find out what those categories / genres are so you can add those in.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, it's because again, once you figure out,
You also got to be careful of what's saturated too, though.
that's true.
True.
That's very true. But what's saturated now might not be saturated in 5 years. So if you're doing the 10 categories on Amazon,
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
use one of them, and also look at if you're doing fantasy, there's no reason you shouldn't include swords and sorcery, Dungeons and Dragons, role playing games. That sort of thing is a viable thing, especially if you're doing something like Portals, where they're coming from this world into the medieval fantasy world.
Well, and on that note, friggin', take a look at what's out there, but what movies are also coming out in the next couple years.
That's true.
Ooh.
Because as movies come out, demand for books in the same genre come out.
That is
So-
very astute.
Eh,
It's very
No, it's
astute.
actually that is
Well, no.
very cyclical because you'll see the book market glut with a certain genre, and 3 to 5 years later, the movie market gluts with that genre.
Yeah.
yes.
So
Well,
you've
because
been adapting the books, yeah.
they adapt the best books of the
Right.
of that market
Yeah, you had
into
to
the movies.
sort of go through that when the Hunger Games came out, and then you had what was it? The Maze Runner,
Right.
and you had Urgent.
Right.
Well, and the young adult
Before
series
that,
ends
it
up.
was like Twilight and all the vampires and all the, paranormal romance and stuff.
What were you gonna say, Aaron?
Oh, but I mean, you also see the cycles of, oh, okay, we'll have our vampire group hit, and then the vampire book drops
Right.
like a stone
Right.
at the same time with the book. So, oh, if you happen to be writing a vampire novel while the height of the vampire movie's going out, hold off on release during that time. Wait until that kind of fades away.
Yeah. It's hard to time though,
is.
and
Oh,
it's like-
absolutely.
that's why you never want to like chase trends, like,
Too
at least
much.
not too hard. At least
Yeah.
always be writing something that you really like, and then
Be aware of the
and then
trends.
hopefully it lines up. Or you could even
Well,
be
I mean,
first. Yeah.
that's something that I kind of ran into with the second of the persona non gratas. It was called Politicus. There were themes that happened, and similar themes happened, or similar plot points happened in popular television. I'm like, well, I can't use this now. I can't use this. They were just too similar to things that were being released at the same time.
Right.
I just had
Wow.
to kind of ride it out. I'm like, I can't do that.
Now,
It was
Yeah.
just big stuff. And I'm like,
on the other hand, when the pandemic hit, there were books that came out 2 years ago or even 15 years ago that suddenly shot to the top of the charts. They kind of
oh, yeah.
track the same thing. And that's something else to watch is if you put out a vampire book right now and it's not doing anything, wait 7 years. When that movie cycle of vampires come back, go change your cover, change your description, update your
Right.
category / genres. So you're not
No, change the
republishing.
title.
Well, then you have to unpublish and republish, and there is problems with that because
yeah.
it will track. Because Amazon doesn't actually remove the old book; it's just out of print now. So they still, if they basically run their bot through it and go, these are all the same words as this book that's no longer published, you can't put it out as a new title.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know when you got separate editions. One thing I like about I like a nice clean author, as clean as possible for in terms of Amazon, a nice clean author page. Have all the books lined up there. I'm spread across 2 author pages now on account of the original 3 Chicken Boy, which I wrote under Mike Thompson instead of Michael Thompson. But on account of the websites becoming too expensive to have multiple websites, I synthesized everything under Michael Thompson, and it lines up okay because I want to reformat Chicken Boy.
right.
So I'm gonna have Chicken Boy 1, 2, and 3 come out with brand new covers and in a whole new size and format.
Very good. Very good. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something you can go change. You have to write them to change the author name, but it can be done. It's not something you generally do. It's it's an hello to Wordowin, my moderator, who is basically nomming along. I think he had orange chicken tonight. How was your curry
Oh.
chicken, Aaron?
It was good. Nom the hell out of it.
Nice.
I had chicken as well. It was baked chicken though,
We
and
got
some
a-
lovely asparagus.
I had beef. We have about 5 more minutes, so we're heading for the wrap up. Any more questions that we want to address about this? Or
No.
closing thoughts?
I feel pretty good. I think for me, it's my takeaway is that it's always good to cast a wide net. You have your wide net, and then you have your smaller net. I don't know.
Well, no. Okay.
My
using,
metaphor fell apart.
using Winslow, okay? You're going out there to friggin' catch
Yes.
specific types of fish. We're going crab fishing. You put out the thing there. Oh, I happen to catch a tuna. No big
I'm cool
deal.
with tuna, yeah. I'll take whatever I can get from
Unless
my
you've
boiler.
seen a tuna
Is that what
fit
you
into
call
a
it?
crab trap. Oh my god. Those things are
Tuna in a
huge.
crab. That would be crazy because that's like a cage.
That would be.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. But
okay.
yeah, go wide and go niche. Yeah.
No, well, you know what imitation crab is made out of, right? Fish.
It's fish. Oh.
Yeah, it's fish. Imitation crab is made out of fish. Look,
And
I caught a
lot of
crab.
sugar, right? They gotta put a bunch of sugar in it, I think. Make it taste.
Crab, fish. Ah, you're imitation crab today.
And here's what I'll say as we wrap this up. Don't forget, guys, you can email us at rightnightshow@gmail.com. That's right, W-R-I-T-E, night, N-I-G-H-T, just like the show title, rightnightshow@gmail.com, with your questions or comments. If you have something you want us to give some thoughts on, feel free to drop us a line there. Don't forget to support the other podcasts. Talk of the Tavern and Stealing for Survival. Talk of the Tavern is toast, topics, and tangents. A lot of fun, very laid back. And Stealing for Survival is the medieval fantasy role-playing game set in the same world that I write Portals and the Downfall series in. Hold on, I got a cat creeping past. So it will be slightly muted as it passes in front of the mic.
Cat's
Microphone,
crossing.
not Michael. Also, I want to thank everybody like Tracy who threw bits, everybody who subscribed and hung out with us tonight, people who hosted, rated, and picked up merchandise, our supporters on Patreon as well as PayPal, and our mods, and most of all, the people who just hung out and chit-chatting with us during the broadcast. Much appreciated. We are going to head out of here, and we will catch you on the next Right Night. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for
I think that went well.
author Travis Ivart and the other writers, content creators, and all around amazing people for our discussion here on Right. Join us again soon, and until you do, make sure you create with passion, enjoy the journey, and remember, every night can be right night.